Kia Tovala, Shem Yisrak Shimo Ko Kodashim Balamal Kudio. Animi Bereka Kim Lev Shalom. Kanukia Sameach. Mashalom King. Gam Li. Kol Hakavod. Shabu Bakasha. Tonight we are to begin our unfoldment of the observation of Chanukah. And again, the word Chanukah means dedication. The story that is told in harmony with this is that, again, what had occurred was that the land of Israel had been occupied by the Greeks. What the Greeks did was that they brought in their traditions. They began to, want to dominate us with their traditions and to cause us to depart from our devotion to a God. But we refuse to do this. We will read part of the story tonight, but again, what had happened during this time was that they had desecrated the temple. They offered pigs on the altars and other things that brought again this sense of desecration, causing again the temple to become tameh, to become contaminated. And we understand that again it is contamination that causes us to have a separation between us and God, us and God. It's the contamination that we experience. So, of course, what is going to occur, and that is that they are going to defeat the Greeks. And this defeating that occurred, again, was a very small group of priests who had come together. What they did was they created what we call guerrilla warfare today. And we were able to defeat an army that was much larger than what we are. Once we defeated that, then what we did was we went on to cleanse the temple and then to rededicate it again. And so the dedication took 8 nights. We had just enough oil for 1 night. So what happened was that there was a miracle. And the miracle was not just the winning of the warfare, but that the oil lasted for 8 nights, thus completing the cleansing of the temple and its rededication. So tonight what we will begin with is, again, the lighting of the Kanukia. If you notice the Kanukia here, it is not like the menorah. The menorah only has 7 lampstands. What we have here is we have 9. And again, these represent the days that it took to rededicate the temple. The candle that you see in the middle is not a part of those days. It is called the Shamash. And we should take on the same attitude as this candle. This candle was on fire only to serve others and to cause them to become on fire. And this is what we need. Our environment is suffering greatly. All of the things that we see occurring in our environment is due to the fact that there is a great separation between us and the Creator. It's contamination. And so what we need to do is we need to light up one another with the idea of purifying and getting away from the contamination, because the contamination stops you from reaching the goal of creation, which is Hamakshava Ha'Eliona, and that is to become a visible manifestation of the Creator. I want you to remember something, and I watched this all day long. This is Sunday. One of the things that they do is they prepare people to die. This is not our preparation. Our preparation is to prepare people to live. We're told, again in the book of Isaiah that the time will come when death will be eliminated. So it doesn't have to be on the forecast as we think. But again, this occurs because we bring ourselves into harmony, into alignment, again, with the Creator, whose goal. And I want you to think about this, because when He made you by blowing Himself in you. The consciousness, the awareness that you have, that's God. If that awareness withdraws itself from the physical body, which we identify with, then we call that death. Which means that you have the potential in your consciousness, in your awareness, to overcome that. But you have to understand the process. And of course, this is what we want to look at. A lot of traditions, again, prepare people for death. We don't. It's not what we do. We do something that people think is impossible. But then we remember something. With God, all things are possible.
Yes.
All things. And if God is your life, which is what it says in the book, then could it be that our failure to understand how to make a withdrawal from this life is what causes death? And so we must understand how to make the withdrawal. But tonight we will begin with, again, dedication. It takes supreme devotion for this to occur. This does not occur simply because we want it to occur. It occurs because of supreme devotion. Again, what we see in the tradition itself is that Enoch does not die. Eliyahu does not die. So to say that this is impossible is to deny what is written in your book. And so we want to consider this. Because if they can do it, why can't you? If we practice the same thing that they practice, the same type of dedication, then the law itself is going to make it happen. You can't do something that someone else did and got the result of life and not get the same result. It's not the way that this works. If I throw something up in the air, the law of gravity will bring it down. That's how it works. We have laws that work within the system itself. If I engage in the laws of life instead of the laws of life and death, then I can produce the same thing. So we're not here to disappoint you or to cause you to have false hope, but to cause you to realize the potential that you possess within this body that we call the vessel. And the reason why we call it the vessel is because it's clothing something. And what is clothing is the soul. And when we speak of this soul, that soul is one with God. So we'll begin with dedication towards this and understanding the warfare that we are to wage in order for this to occur. I want you to remember something, and you'll read this again in the prophets. Prophets said that an army would come, and this army that would come, you would see them fall on the sword and not be wounded. What does this mean? The army has reached the state of immortality. And now they will aid others in the same thing. So we may look odd to you. We may look like something that's out of sort. something that you don't understand. I don't see how this can happen. But if you keep doing the same thing that you've been doing, you're going to get the same result. We're talking about a different result now because we're approaching it from a different way. But I'll read it to you tonight. But first, let's begin with the lighting of menorah. So I'm going to have someone to come and to do this. And the way that we do, again, is we begin with the Shamash. And then we go all the way to the right, and for the first night, we light a candle. And then tomorrow night, we'll put another candle in, and we'll do the same thing, lighting the candle that we put in first, and then the second one, and we'll do that all the way through these days, again, of dedication. L'Yishavot. Present arms. Brukatah Kar Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kisenu b'mitzvotav v'asivanu lehadik ner Kanukia. Brukatah Kar Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asa nesei letanu b'amim hahe ziman hazeh. Brukatah Kar Eloheinu melech haolam, she'keyanu v'keyanu v'keyanu lazman hazeh. Return. I'm going to ask if someone would come now and light the Kanukia. Salute! Return. Shabu B'Bakasha. Story of, again, Chanukah. You cannot find this in the Tanakh. What you have to have is you have to have the Apocrypha. And in this, what you're going to be reading from is the book of what is called First Maccabees. And again, this is dealing with the priesthood that began to understand that the only way that we're going to break the chains of oppression upon us is to wage war. It's very important to understand that, but give me just the opportunity to read different portions of this. Beginning in chapter number 2. It says, in those days, Mattathias, the son of John, the son of Simeon, a priest of the family of Uriah, moved from Jerusalem and settled in Modin. He had 5 sons. John, surnamed Gadi. Simeon, called Thassus. Judas, called Maccabeus. Eleazar, called Avram. And Jonathan, called Appius. He saw the blasphemies being committed in Judah and in Jerusalem. The description of these blasphemies is found in these words. So we have again a scene that we're being given that is occurring in Israel, in the land. And what we have is we have the Greeks, and what they're doing is they're causing, again, blasphemies to be committed in the land. It tells us, it says, the king's officers who were enforcing the apostasy came to the town of Modin to make them offer sacrifice. Many from Israel came to them. Mattathias and his sons were assembled. Then the king's officers spoke to Mattathias as follows: you are a leader, honored and great in this town. and supported by my sons and brothers. Now be it first to come and to do what the king commands, as all the Gentiles and the people of Judah and those that are left in Jerusalem have done. Then you and your sons will be numbered among the friends of the king, and you and your sons will be honored with silver and gold and many gifts. So we have a scenario here where the government, the politicians, what they are engaged in is trying to cause the priesthood to begin to move in harmony with them. But the thing about it was that the politicians were moving against the instructions of the Creator. These priests were promised that if they would do this, more money, more silver, more gold, etc. But I want you to notice again their response, because it takes, again, supreme dedication in order to fulfill, again, the idea of being one with the Creator. It says, but Mattathias answered and said in a loud voice, even if all the nations that live under the rule of the king obey him and have chosen to obey his commandments, every one of them abandoning the religion of their ancestors, I and my sons and my brothers will continue to live by the covenant of our ancestors, completely dedicated, totally dedicated. Far be it from us to desert the law and the ordinances. We will not obey the king's words by turning aside from our religion and to the right hand or to the left. When he had finished speaking these words, the Jews came forward in the sight to offer sacrifice on the altar of Modin, according to the king's command. When Mattathias saw it, he burned with zeal, and his heart was stirred. He gave vent to righteous anger. He ran and he killed him on the altar. At the same time, he killed the king's officer, who was forcing them to sacrifice. And he tore down the altar. And he burned with zeal for the law, just as Pinchas did against Zimri, the son of Salu. So now we have the next thing. We have an individual that's saying, no, we will not do this. We will remain dedicated, whether it is the government or whatever authority is speaking, whether it's all the nations, and they're saying that this is what we're going to do. We remain dedicated to the laws, the commandments that have been given to the Creator, because they have been given in order that we might have life. It goes on to say, at that time, many who were seeking righteousness and justice went down to the wilderness to live there. They, their sons, their wives, their livestock, because troubles pressed heavily upon them. And it was reported to the king's officers and to the troops in Jerusalem, the city of David, that those who had rejected the king's command had gone down to hiding in the wilderness. Many pursued them, overtook them. They encamped opposite them and prepared for battle against them on the Shabbat day. They said to them, enough of this, come out and do what the king commands, and you will live. But they said, we will not come out, nor will we do what the king commands, and so profane the Shabbat. Then the enemy quickly attacked them. But they had something that was very important, a willingness to die, to fall on the sword in order to keep what the Creator has commanded. He goes on to say, but they did not answer. They hurled a stone at them or blocked up their hiding places. For they said, let us die in our innocence. Heaven and earth testify for us that you are killing us unjustly. We've endured this type of attack for many years, even today, in ways that are more profound than we understand. In rhetoric, again, the falsehoods that are told to us that cause us to hope in that which is hopeless. I want you to think about something. How we were told, if you do this, let us stick you in the arm, you're going to be okay. And now all of a sudden, something else has changed. False hopes. False hopes. It goes on to say, so they attacked them on the Shabbat. They died, their wives, their children, and the livestock to the number of 1,000 persons. When Mattathias and his friends learned of it, they mourned for them deeply. All they said to their neighbors, if we all do our kindred have done and refuse to fight, if we refuse to fight against this, then the thing will remain the same. If we refuse to fight. If we refuse to fight with the Gentiles for our lives and for our ordinances, they will quickly destroy us from the earth. So they made this decision that day. Let us fight against anyone who comes to attack us on the Shabbat day. Let us not all die as our kindred died in their hiding places. Then there united with them a company of Hasidims, mighty warriors of Israel, all who offered themselves willingly for the law, and all who became fugitives to escape their troubles, joined them and reinforced them. The thing that hath been is the thing that shall be. This will occur again, and it's occurring right before your eyes. It goes on to say, they organized an army. Who? The priests. And struck down sinners in their anger, and the renegades in their wrath. The survivors fled to the Gentiles for safety, and Mattathias and his friends went around and tore down the altars. They forcibly circumcised all the uncircumcised boys that they found within the borders of Israel. They hunted down the arrogant. Their work prospered in their hands. They rescued the law out of the hands of the Gentiles and those that were distorted, the kings, the politicians. And they never let a sinner gain the upper hand. And then they give us this report. Remember the deeds of the ancestors, which they did in their generations, and you will receive great honor and an everlasting name. Was not Abraham found faithful when tested, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness? Joseph in the time of distress kept the commandment and became Lord over Egypt. Pinchas, our ancestor, because he was deeply zealous, received the covenant of everlasting priesthood. Yehoshua, because he fulfilled the command, became a judge in Israel. Caleb, because he testified in the assembly received an inheritance in the land. David, he was merciful, inherited the throne of the kingdom forever. Eliyahu, because of great zeal for the law, did not die. Hananiah, Azariah, Mishael believed and were saved from the flame. Daniel, because of his innocence, was delivered from the mouth of the lion. This, the protection of our covenant, is our deliverance. This is what we must understand. And we must fight for it because they're trying to take it away and establish another system. A system that does not work, but only promises one thing, and when the promise fails, tries to take you to another thing. Our ancestors stood up. They were warriors. What has happened to us? We become soft. We become complacent. Don't want to fight no more. All we talk about is peace, peace, peace. Yet, they pound us on the head, on the head, and on the head. Tonight, we must dedicate ourselves to the spirit of the warrior, because that's who we are. As Semites, we were always warriors. We will not take this line down. But we'll fight against the last enemy itself, and that enemy is death. Victory is promised. So what we do is we dedicate ourselves to the fight. They're getting you at every angle now. In your pocketbook, in your morality, in your health. They are getting you at every angle. Will you sit there and allow this, or will you stand up and fight? That becomes the question. So tonight, we light the first candle. That first candle represents the spirit that we have. We will war till the finish. We will not give up. It makes no difference how we may be attacked. We will stand up and fight again and again and again until what is rightfully ours, and that's life without end, becomes a manifestation in this brigade or in this body. Nehalel yo! Nehalel yo! Nehalel yo! Am Yisrael Kai! Am Yisrael Kai! Am Yisrael Kai! Ve'ahava be'shimka be'shalom.